For this module, I'm back in the application or the project we worked on in the last course section. And you can find my state attached to this video so that you can start right at the same point as I do. So it is just the code we wrote over the last lectures. And one thing we constantly had to do in the last section or throughout this course was that we always had to run node app.js to start our, app or our node application with that file. Now, this is certainly okay and not too much work, but it actually is possible to define some scripts in a Node.js project that can help us with tasks like this. We can also use them for other tasks, but especially for this, they can be useful right now. And for that, we have to use a feature we didn't use thus far. We have to use NPM. NPM stands for Node Package Manager, and it is installed together with Node.js. So you don't need to do anything, you got this installed already. Now we will also use NPM to install some additional third-party packages to our project soon. So packages that are not included in Node's core, so not part of Node's core modules. But we can also use NPM to initialize a so-called Node project or to add some extra features to it, to be precise. Because we obviously already got a Node project here, but now in this project, in a terminal navigated into this project, you can run npm init. Now, this will not delete your code or anything like that, no worries. Simply hit enter and you'll be prompted with a couple of questions here. It'll ask you first of all for a name of your package. And for now, you can simply translate this with project name. Now, you can pick any name you want. The part in the parentheses here always is the suggestion, the default it will pick if you don't choose your own name. So if I just hit enter here, it will take that default. So you can basically do that for all these questions. For the description, you can leave that empty. Then it will have no default text either. But you can also enter some text like complete Node.js guide. This is what this course is. And then define an entry point with app.js, for example. You can leave the test command empty, leave that empty, keywords, you can choose some if you want. You can put your name into the author field, though this is also not required. And you can also choose a license, but if you don't plan on sharing this project publicly, this also doesn't really matter. So with this, what you get is this package.json file. And there you also see all these settings or configurations you just set up. And you can, of course, edit them there too. So if you had a typo in your description, you can just edit it here. Now, this is using the JSON format, which is a special kind of data format, which basically looks a lot like JavaScript objects. And it pretty much is based on that. There's one important thing to understand, though. The keys are always put between double quotation marks, and so are the values, except for numbers or arrays or true or false, which are not put between these. But that's too much for now. We can ignore that for now, just so that you understand what you got there. It's basically a configuration file for your project. Now, what does this configuration file give you? Well, let's clear the console here. With this configuration file, you see that we got a scripts section there, which has one default script that won't do anything for now. You can add your own scripts here, and I will tell you how to execute them too, of course. For that, let's add a comma after this test script and add a new script name, which has to be put between double quotation marks. And there, let's name it start. Now, start is actually a special script name, as you will see in a second, so make sure to type this correctly. And then between quotation marks, you type a command that should be executed. So this is a command which you could also type down there. And there we always had to type node app.js. So let's now put that between these double quotation marks here. Node app.js, like this. With that, save that file. And then you can run npm start. Start is a reserved name, and this will always look for such a start script here. And if you do that, it will, as you can see here, just execute node app.js. So it does the same you had before, but now you can always just well, run this command instead of running node app.js. Not that much of saved characters, but a few at least. And it's also good practice because if you ever share this project, it's pretty common that people just have to run npm start and that they don't have to guess which of your JavaScript files is the entry file. So you can quit this with Ctrl+C, of course, as always. And I mentioned that this would be a special script name. You can add more scripts also without using a special name. You can indeed choose any name you want. Just make sure that you always wrap the name in double quotation marks and that it does not contain any blanks or white spaces. So for example, we could have start-server. Now this can also run node app.js, so it will do the exact same as this script, and therefore it's of course redundant, but I want to show you something. And now, if you try running npm start-server, you'll get an error. You basically get an error that this is not a known command. And indeed it isn't, because just typing the script name here will not work. Start just was a special case, as I mentioned. Indeed, for normal scripts with your own custom names, you have to run npm run and then your script name. So npm run start server will now also start the server. Now, as I mentioned, this is of course redundant. npm start is way shorter, but I want you to understand how you can add your own scripts. Now, if you worked with something like Angular or React or Vue or any modern front-end development workflow, you will have seen that you use such scripts a lot to trigger build workflows for your projects, for example. And indeed, you can use that for all kinds of tasks you want to execute, but for now, we'll not dive deeper into that. And if you haven't worked with Angular or React, that's also no problem. You will see what I mean later in this course when I explore Node's functionality as a build tool a bit more. For now, let's just use that npm start script to start our application conveniently.